Hey guys, Luke C here. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of TFBTV. A couple of years ago, James Reeves had the opportunity to go to Thunder Ranch with the legendary Clint Smith to review the Springfield Model 2020 Waypoint rifle in their counter sniper course. Just a couple of months ago, Springfield finally released something I've been interested in reviewing, the Springfield Model 2020 Rimfire. The Springfield Model 2020 Rimfire, like other rifles in its class, is supposed to be an accurate and affordable rifle that's capable of doing everything from plinking all the way up to rimfire PRS competitions. Now, what makes the Springfield Rimfire 2020 so special? Well, at least according to Springfield, it's capable of producing a 3-shot, 1-inch group at 50 yards with match-grade ammunition in the hands of a competent shooter. And we're going to test that today. But before we get into our accuracy testing with the Springfield 2020 Rimfire, let's check out its specifications and features and see if it might be up your alley to begin with. The new Model 2020 Rimfire rifles come in two distinct families, Classic and Target. Now, the Classic version, which comes with walnut stock, features a 20-inch #1 Sporter Contour free-floated barrel and a matching blue finish. The Turkish walnut stocks come in 3 different grades, 1 matte finish, 1 single A grade, 1 double A grade, and 1 triple A grade walnut stock. And aside from that, the rifles are virtually identical. Now, the Classic rifles featuring the Turkish walnut stocks are probably better suited to someone looking for a more traditional looking rifle, or maybe who just care more about how the rifle looks than how it functions. Personally, I like the Target model's synthetic stocks, especially the Sage version that I have right here. A base matte finish walnut stock model in the Classic line is probably going to set you back about $529 to start, but they top out at about $1,099 for the AAA grade stocks. Now, aside from the difference in materials and stocks, the only real difference between the Classic Rimfire and the Target model that I have here is that the Target model comes with a heavy profile straight taper threaded barrel. Regardless of which model you pick, both models feature a floated barrel, which should help in achieving that 1-inch 3-round group accuracy claim. Now, aside from the differences in the stock and the barrel, both rifles are virtually identical. Both rifles feature a hard chrome steel 2-lug bolt, dual extractors, a 60-degree bolt throw, fixed steel ejector, interrupted Picatinny rail, and of course a Remington 700 style trigger. Now, this means you can take your rifle and your standard trigger pack, which is included here, and drop in an aftermarket Remington 700 trigger, and you're off to the races. The standard trigger that comes with all models of the Springfield 2020 Rimfire breaks at about 4.3 pounds, at least according to my scale, but it can be adjusted anywhere from 4 pounds all the way up to 5.5 pounds for that added layer of safety. Now, when it comes to both models of the Springfield Model 2020 Rimfire, both the Target and the Classic feature really nice QC and a really solid lockup on both of the actions. Now, when it comes to Turkish rifles, my experience in the past has been that they generally suffer from QC issues, or they'll have failures of some sort. There's always some sort of thing wrong with them that keeps them from being a great rifle, despite the price. However, I have to say, in the specific case of the Model 2020 Rimfire, everything from the way the rifle is assembled, the lockup of the magazines, and even down to the bolt throw and the trigger pull and the adjustments for the trigger, everything is solid and locks up really nicely. There's not really any rattle coming from the stock or the action, which is really important if you're looking for your accuracy. One of the biggest draws of the Model 2020 Rimfire is that it takes cheap and very abundant 10-round rotary magazines patterned after the Ruger 1022 rifle. Springfield has their own 10-round magazines, which perfectly emulate the Ruger 1022 BX1 magazines, and Springfield also sells them on their website for about $25, which puts them at about the same price as the standard Ruger magazines. Now, the use of Ruger 1022 magazines would be really freaking awesome if it weren't for one major caveat.
I'm not. They really don't fit. That makes me so fucking angry. They don't fit. What about this one? No, they don't fit.
Now, while it's really cool that Springfield made the decision to use Ruger pattern 1022 magazines, the glaring omission of its compatibility with 15 or even 25 round magazines is just disappointing. I can almost get the Ruger BX15 magazines to seat in the rifle, but they simply just don't click in no matter what I try. I've tried it with the bolt back, I've tried it with the bolt forward, I've tried it with the magazines empty, I've tried it with the magazines full. They simply just do not fit. However, I guess since this is a bolt action rifle and its primary duty is probably going to be for squirrel hunting, target shooting, or PRS shooting, I guess the compatibility issues with 15 round or 25 round magazines can be overlooked to provide you with a more streamlined profile that's easier to get in and out of brush, or perhaps in and out of barriers or obstacles. Now, most bolt action rimfire rifles, after you run a couple hundred rounds through them, start having extraction issues. This is simply because rimfire ammo is super dirty. It's really oily, really gritty, and debris winds up getting in your extractor, and you wind up having extraction failures. The Model 2020 rimfire features dual extractors, which help sort of alleviate some of that issue, but also the chrome bolts design means that you're not really having to do much cleaning most of the time. Now, in addition to the dual extractors, there's also dual caulking surfaces, which add to the overall ease of running the bolt. The increased surface area on the caulking action here means that the bolt is a lot easier to cycle, which means that you can spend a lot less time trying to refix your sight picture and focus more on shooting accurately. Now, between the two different models of the rifle, I've run about 750 rounds collectively, and I haven't had to clean either one of them, and I haven't experienced any extraction or feeding issues from either one of them using either BX1 Ruger magazines or the factory supplied Springfield magazines.
How many rounds are in there?
10.
I don't know how many I've shot so far. There we go.
Good job. And now we come to one of the bigger questions of this review. Is it accurate? Now, when it comes to the accuracy of the Springfield 2020 rimfire, it's kind of a mixed bag, depending on what your mission is. Early in the year, I had the chance to shoot the classic model of the Springfield 2020 rimfire, and I was getting about 1.5 to 2 inch groups at 50 yards using CCI standard velocity ammunition. Now, when I picked up the target model of the rifle, I wanted to do my accuracy testing again, specifically because of the heavy contour barrel, hoping that it would increase the accuracy with the CCI standard velocity ammunition. Now, compared to the classic model, the target model had pretty similar accuracy results, especially when using CCI standard velocity. CCI standard velocity is usually my go-to ammo because it's fairly consistent across the board, and of course it's dirt cheap, meaning everyone can afford it, and so I think it's a fair metric to judge most rimfire rifles by. Now, CCI standard velocity netted me about a 3 inch group of about a ½ inch, but since I was putting 5 round groups on paper, that group ballooned to about 1.5 inches. Next up was Browning's Pro Target 40 grain, which was the worst group out of the bunch, and that netted me a group of about 2.5 to 3 inches at 50 yards. S&B Club, which is a middle-of-the-road ammunition, gave us our second best group of the day of just under 1 inch. And Wolf Match produced a slightly larger group overall, but it was still well within that 1 inch accuracy claim, meaning that Springfield isn't lying about their accuracy when it comes to both the target model and the classic model. Curiously, however, when I switched over to Lufua X-Act, which is probably the most expensive rimfire ammunition on the planet, costing about 40 cents a round, the group ballooned to about 2 inches in size. Now, these accuracy results aren't all that bad depending on how you look at it. Most rimfire ammunition is fairly inconsistent, especially the cheaper bulk stuff. And for a lot of people, that's where the value in rimfire lies. And you can shoot a lot of ammunition for not a lot of money and spend most of your day shooting and having fun versus spending 40 cents a piece on match ammunition and shooting for about 5 minutes and crying afterwards. It's pretty well known that most rimfire rifles tend to favor not just one specific type of ammunition in terms of grain weight, but also even sometimes specific lot numbers. And so this leads a lot of people to find what works best in an acceptable range versus trying to find whatever's going to give them a dime-sized group every time, because it's usually prohibitively expensive. If pinpoint accuracy is your goal, then the 2020 rimfire is easily outclassed by the slightly more expensive options on the market like the Ruger Precision Rimfire and the CZ457. Both great options if you're looking for an entry-level rimfire PRS rifle. Now, to sum up the accuracy portion of the review in a nice little bow, I'd say that Springfield isn't lying when it comes to their accuracy claims. You definitely do need match ammunition to get anywhere close to that 1 inch group at 50 yards, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of you out there found a specific lot number of CCI standard velocity that did the same thing for much cheaper. However, the Model 2020 rimfire, I think, excels at my type of shooting, which is just to go to the range and plink at random garbage that's at the range, or perhaps take your friends out shooting. Compared to any other type of ammunition on the market, Rimfire is always going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of actual time behind the trigger. On top of that, it's a great way to introduce new shooters to the sport without scaring them off with a really loud centerfire rifle or even a handgun. What makes this even better is the inclusion of the Springfield Model 2020 Rimfire's threaded barrel, at least on the Target edition. This means you can add a suppressor, which makes it infinitely more fun to shoot and a lot less scary for those who may not be accustomed to the sound of gunfire. The only other offerings currently on the market in terms of features and price is none other than Ruger's own American Rimfire synthetic model, which also has a threaded barrel and also comes ready to accept optics right out of the box. However, Ruger lacks the accuracy claim, and Ruger also lacks the Remington 700 style trigger compatibility, which might be a deal breaker for some of you looking to get into precision shooting sports in the Rimfire class. And on top of that, it's a full $100 and change more than the Springfield. Now, to sum up my thoughts on the Model 2020 Rimfire from Springfield, I'd have to say it's a solid choice for a Rimfire bolt-action rifle. The rifle can handle just about anything you'd expect a bolt-action Rimfire rifle to do. Now, aside from the weird magazine compatibility issue, there's really nothing wrong with the Model 2020 Rimfire. It's reliable, it's certainly accurate with the right ammunition, and of course, it's only $420, which leaves plenty of room in the budget for better optics, or a bipod, or perhaps a really expensive Remington 700 trigger if you're into that. Now, these days, I really haven't had much time to get into competitions, and rimfire rifles and pistols have basically been relegated to use as training implements, or just getting away from the office and shooting for fun on the weekend. And that's really where the gold is in rimfire rifles and pistols for me, is that they're cheap, and they're fun, and they're a great way to introduce your friends to shooting, and a great way to get new shooters into the sport without scaring them off. Now, what the Springfield Model 2020 Rimfire is to me is a very affordable, very capable bolt-action rimfire rifle. If your goal is just to have fun on the weekend shooting or getting some practice in or plinking with your friends, then I can wholeheartedly recommend it. If your goal is to get into rimfire PRS shooting, you could probably do a little bit better by spending a little bit more money, but that's a decision I can leave up to you. Now, I've really enjoyed my time with Springfield's Model 2020 Rimfire, but of course, not all shooters are the same, and not all rifles are created to the same standard. This is just a sample size of one. I'd like to hear what you have to say since the rifle's been out for a couple of months. Let me know what you guys think of the rifle down in the comments, and thanks as always for tuning in to TFB TV. As always, a big thank you to our sponsors, Ventura Munitions and Top Gun Supply, as well as our Patreon Subscribestar and our Play Your subscribers. Without you guys, we couldn't do this. Thanks for watching.
Oh, we went right through it. One. Woo!
Out of ammo?
Yeah. Darn, I hit the can like 3 times.